Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here for another episode, number 6, Trent Talks. I've got Nicholas Kirchner. I think I said it right.
Yeah, you got it.
um, so Nick. I've known Nick for a while, and Nick has actually gone through the process of building and scaling an ad agency. He's gone through the process of being able to then exit that agency and join another company through a buyout. And he's done a heck of a lot of Facebook ads and run a lot of them at scale. So we're going to get to hear a little bit of his story and kind of the what to watch out for, what to miss. And then he's also going to give us some thoughts, ideas, and tips on how to run ads at scale.
Yeah.
So Nick, welcome, dude. It's awesome to have you, man. I'm excited.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's a pleasure.
Well, I'm going to let you start, dude, because you're the man of the hour right now.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in Facebook ads, kind of how the whole process went of you growing your agency.
Yeah. So I'm 22 now. I started in internet marketing, or like dabbling in internet marketing at 17. So I was like trying affiliate marketing. I was trying to like Kindle ebook publishing. Like I bought my fair share of like $47 ebooks that like would teach you how to do X, Y, Z back then when I had like no money. And so I just started like breaking stuff. Like I'd look at landing pages and I'd be like, how the heck do they make these? Are these like custom coded, or is there like a tool? Like nowadays there's like ClickFunnels and lead pages and all these things. And to me, it was like just a black hole and I knew nothing. But basically I was in college, started breaking things, just trying to see what worked, tried e-commerce. So that's kind of like, that was my first exposure to having to run ads or run traffic. Right. So when that happened, I started running Facebook ads, Google ads, and just seeing what worked. And I had no skill. I'd taken no programs. I was just a beginner, and spent all the money that I made at a warehouse job on my Facebook ads to see like what works.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of where I like cut my chops, because I had to like live and make money while I was going to school before I dropped out. And so that's where I got started. And then I dropped out of school, had a sales job for a little while, making cold calls. And then I was running the agency after hours. And it finally grew to a point where I could quit that job. And then the ad spend just started getting bigger, and over time now I've grown, sold an agency, and hopefully looking to do that again at some point, just on a much bigger scale.
Now, when did we met? What was it, 2 or 3 years ago?
I want to say it was like 2 years ago.
2 years ago, because I think you were like 20.
Yeah. We were talking like lead gen tactics. I think forget what industry. I think it was in the chiropractic space, which that's who I was working with at the time, too.
Nice. All right. So you started like a lot of people say they should. Like we say, a lot of people should start it, but they actually don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, I have another job, I don't have time.
Yeah.
You started your entire agency from the standpoint of like, hey, I'm going to start this as a second company. I'm going to make it. I'm going to start it that way as my side hustle, and then when I can cover my income, then I'll transition over full time.
Yeah, because I was in such a place of pain at that job. Like I hated it. The management sucked. So that like motivated me to get out as soon as possible. So I was like, this is the model. This has to work. So, literally like, Gary Vee says the 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. But that for real was my grind, and that allowed me to leave eventually. And when I was starting to get meetings booked in my local area, I would use my paid time off at work to go have these meetings.
That was my next question. I was going to ask you, like, how do you build the agency doing the 6 to 2 p.m., or 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. thing when you're working a full-time job and you've got to meet with clients, clients are calling you, whatever. Like, how did you build as your side hustle dealing with all of that?
So literally I would step out during the day. If a client called me, I'd call them right back, have the discussion out in the hallway, and then go back to work, and then take care of whatever work that I had to do later on that day. And in the beginning, it was just me. Like, you had no team, you had no leverage or anything. So I did that. I used my paid time off. And then like in the beginning, and I'm still a huge proponent, especially at the level of deals that we're doing now, like you need that one-on-one connection. It's not like I'm going to get fucking MGM Resorts from a cold email, like a campaign, like these are real connections, real people, got to travel there and whatnot. So that's changed over time. But I'd go to networking events after work, and then
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'd go straight from work to the networking event and basically go there, show up really confident. I mean, I knew my stuff, but I definitely,
Right.
in hindsight, you always look back like 3 or 4 years later, and you're like, man, I had no fucking clue back then.
Right. At the time, you're thinking like, oh, look, I've put the time in, I know my craft. And I mean, even I look back, like I've been doing this since 2008 and I'm like, oh man,
Yeah, like in the beginning,
wow,
you were really clueless.
what I did not know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I started closing some deals. And
How did you find clients?
yeah,
How did you find clients while you were doing the hustle?
it was literally those first networking events. I also went on Craigslist and looked at people looking for social media help or managers. And my biggest like first client at the time, which at the time I wasn't making like any money at my day job, or like okay, we'll just say like an average yearly salary for most Americans. And so I found this company on Craigslist, and I go into the meeting, and I was like, I know I'm going to charge $1,500 because I want this client. I want to build my client base. I had 2 other clients at the time, and I was like, okay, so just another like run of the mill. Just want to build the revenue. And it's a 2-hour meeting. They were really, really excited. And then right as he asked, so what's it going to cost me? Like the narrative in my head the whole time was 1,500. I spit out $4,000 at like when he says, what's it going to cost me? I don't know what like inside of me like made me do that. I still can't explain that.
Like the $4,000 just jumped out.
It literally jumped out. And like I checked my, like after I said that, I was like, okay, you probably just like blew the deal. I'm not going to want to do it. Why did you say that? Like you could have just closed this very easily. And then they said, sounds great. And I was like, oh,
sounds great.
Yeah, great. And they were like, I assume you didn't bring the contract with you. And I was like, yeah, I did. Here it is. I passed it across the table. And then they signed it, and I got paid, and that was the ticket to me leaving my job.
Now, what kind of company was that?
So that was a cannabis vaporizer company.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess here's my question, and the one that people ask all the time. You're doing 15 when you first started, because I want to step back one thing. Like you say you're going on Craigslist and you're looking for people who are needing help with social media. Like, how did you determine your pricing early on?
Yeah, totally. So I was just like,
did you start for free?
No, I didn't. No, because it's really weird. My first client never actually asked me one time who else I had worked with or anything. Mind you, it was only $1,000 a month, but he never asked me because I walked in and like I was confident I knew my stuff. Like people could tell. So doing the homework definitely helped. And now like when I'm pricing things, or now I have like employees and overhead and all that to build in. But back then I was just like, how much money can I make them from what I'm going to do? So although I didn't know the exact amount, I'm not a proponent of charging like, $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month if you know nothing and you're not going to ever get them a return on their investment. Like, especially in our space, which is largely performance marketing, like people are in it for the return, not to look at it as a fixed expense every month that they don't really know where the money is going. Very trackable, traceable. So yeah, I basically whatever value I could provide, whatever I thought that was worth. I know some people undercharge, go for free, but understand.
Did you do it as a percentage of what you felt you could increase the business by?
Not a set percentage. I was just like,
I mean a calculated percentage, like up top.
Yeah, not really. It's just like, okay. I asked them what their lifetime value of a customer is. I'm like, okay, I could probably get them, if it's a chiropractor, for example, and their lifetime value is $1,500. I'm like, okay, can I get them 2 patients? Like, yeah, I can.
I get them 2 patients in a month.
Yeah, for them to break even and then see profit. So like, that's kind of what I went off of, and that gets a lot clearer over time. I don't know if you can go in with the perfect price. There is no perfect price. It's like, what are your expenses?
Right.
Like cash flow planning and all that stuff. You gotta know your numbers.
Now, interesting twist. I didn't know that you actually started with chiropractors. So when you started, chiropractors was the push, though. That's what everybody's like. Oh, I'm gonna. You know what I'm talking about. There's a huge like industry-wide push about start with chiropractors and dentists and stuff like that, where you can do your what am I looking for? Your deep discount offer, that kind of thing. And
Yep.
so how did you differentiate yourself, or what did you do that you felt differentiated yourself from other people who were pitching them the same thing?
Well, I mean, I didn't have a niche when I started, right? So
Okay.
I was just like, because you did, like, most people go after that niche, but they don't even know if they like serving them. They don't know if they're even like
Valid point.
or if they like generating leads for that kind of business model. Turns out, I mean, that was just a stepping stone for me into like the e-commerce space, and larger brands and whatnot. So, honestly,
So you just you happened into that, and that's the one that you're like, all right, well, I'm doing well, so let me expand on it
it was
until
one that I wanted to taste, right? Because most people
Yeah.
don't taste enough stuff. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to give it a go and
Okay.
see if I like it. And what separated me? I mean, I wasn't sending him a cold email saying, hey, I can refer you 15 patients a week or whatever. I literally met him at a networking event, sat him down, showed him how the process worked, explained how what he was doing now wasn't sufficient to generate leads and how the ROI wasn't trackable. He didn't have like a sales process established, didn't have a follow-up process established. So once again, I think what sets me apart is I'm making things personal. And when people say, oh, well, you can't scale if it's personal. And I say, bullshit, you can hire people that can, scale the personal effort, i.e. sales people, whatnot. So I'm just not a big fan of like reaching out via like cold email and whatnot that they're just getting inundated with. It's like this person came in and actually talked to me, had a conversation, and is real, not some black hole.
So for your agency, you never really ran the traditional route that a lot of people say when they want to automate, they go with, hey, let me set up my own sales funnel, like through ClickFunnels. Let me set up my funnel and I'll do all this to bring clients in. You stayed as a very personal touch there.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, if you want to play small forever, fine. You do the funnel approach, like whatever, but that only goes to a certain point. Like, all I'm saying is,
when you say small, you're talking client size, correct?
Yeah, like if you want 2,000 a month clients, 3,000 a month clients, there's nothing wrong with those clients. Like, we still serve clients like that at all. But what I'm saying is, if you want to go big, like some of our clients are Petco and Yahoo, and I'll tell you what, the CMO at Petco or Yahoo is not coming through a
Facebook ad funnel,
my sales funnel that doesn't look amazing. Like, it just doesn't have a high end feel. Like, when you're competing with some of the best creative agencies in the world, like Ogilvy, VaynerMedia, and just all these other top level agencies that are part of conglomerates, like, you just can't play on that level. You have to like step up and actually make
a personal touch.
Yeah, you have to, because those meetings are boardroom meetings. They're not Zoom calls. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. When did you know that you were ready to step from, I'm running my $1,500 a month, or was it just the accidental like blurt out of 4,000, which is what showed you were ready?
Well, that showed me I was ready to charge whatever, because it's like, okay, if they saw, and that was just for social media management. That wasn't even for Facebook ads.
That wasn't even that was just social media management.
That was literally just posting.
Interesting.
And so I was like, sweet, that's easy enough.
Okay, so that's another thing. I'll be honest, and as much as we've talked, I never knew that. I thought you were strictly an ad manager. I didn't. So did you start out doing both then?
I started out doing both, and then I was like, okay, well, clients are leaving because they're like, well, I'm not really making money.
ROI is tough to judge on,
and they don't see the brand. They don't see building brand equity. But small businesses don't understand that. Huge businesses like Coca-Cola, where they have $1 billion marketing budget, and they don't really see it.
They'll spend more money on the organic side than they will the paid side. Which that is an interesting dichotomy there, though. That small businesses will focus more on the paid side because they can see the ROI, like a quick ROI, versus the organic, and it's just the opposite for large corporations.
Yeah, and a lot of businesses, though, could benefit from the organic. It's just they're not willing to play the long game, or they don't have their business set up right to be able to play the long game.
Yeah.
Because in advertising and business, the person who can spend the most to acquire a customer always wins. And most small businesses can't do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. Performance marketing is great, but they're just in a different frame of mind.
Nice. All right. So when you decide to scale, you figured out from your blurred out, which I love that, dude. That's amazing.
Like people sometimes think I'm joking about that, but I literally as he was asking that question, I was thinking that 1,500, and then it just
Popped out $4,000. You're
I
like,
don't know.
okay,
I
he can pay for it.
I was like, yeah, hell yeah, it's costing.
Awesome. All right. So obviously you knew at that point you could charge, you could raise your prices significantly.
Yep.
But at what point did you start saying, okay, I want to start taking on larger customers?
Yep.
I want to start working on with like you mentioned, large e-commerce sites, or I want to start working with larger corporations. And how did you go about shifting from whether it's not mom and pop, but like small businesses and moving into the large companies doing whether it's 20, 50, $100 million a year?
Sure. So my next kind of stepping stone was like from those smaller businesses, moving into another area of success I've had is coaches and consultants. So like all the people you see, in ClickFunnels, obviously I've worked with all of them, but I've worked with several of them. And, whether it was taking them from 30,000 a month to 120,000 a month just through Facebook ads in, under 90 days. Or like I had several case studies like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, okay, I can really spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, make this wildly profitable, like 4 or 5 times return on a digital product. I mean, what's your cost of goods? It's like
right.
Pure profit, right?
It is pure profit. I mean, you're like 90, what is it, 95, 85 usually?
Yeah, exactly. So that was like a good stepping stone for me. So I was going from like small brick and mortar businesses to online coaches who like could achieve scale. Then I was like, okay, well, I can manage a lot of spend. I could generate leads. I can get registration costs, here. And they're actually quality, and then they generate a return. So more pieces were clicking at scale through that time period. And then after that, when I was looking at getting acquired, I was approached to be acquired. And then that's really where I stepped into, okay, now I'm working with massive companies. And mind you, the company that acquired me and that I joined, they're in year 2, or we're in year 2 now. And nice. The first year did 2.7 million. So it's like really growing fast, but working with those big names. Mind you, the model is pretty much not completely different, but there's the media buying, and then there's the content creation and the content distribution. So like we have a full production studio, we're traveling around doing shoots the whole time. So like, nice. And then we're taking that on the paid side and using those assets, those higher quality things to drive results.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, because the other thing is, this too, when you're scaling, whether it's your own agency or if your agency is scaling another company, you don't know which creative ad is going to hit.
Right.
Like, I mean, and you've been doing this now. You've spent, I don't know, how much money you think you spent on Facebook ads for clients?
I'd probably say total lifetime, like probably 7 million.
So there you go. So you spent a ton of money on Facebook ads.
Yeah.
But even with your experience, you still can't guarantee which ad's going to hit. And that's the thing I think people miss is like, Gary talks a lot about this. You mentioned him earlier. Gary talks about putting out tons and tons of pieces of content and throwing a little bit of money behind them. If you see one that works, scale it.
Yeah, of course. And, that's something that I still do. That's something that every good advertiser does and good copywriter. It's all in the testing. Let the market decide what's good. Don't let your own brain say this is good and push something that the market doesn't want.
Well, I wanted to talk to one point here, and you probably know I was going to go here at some point.
I don't know.
So early on, you caught, not early on, I say kind of halfway through, you caught and from my understanding, it was a lot, it wasn't just, I was going to say caught a break. It wasn't just you catching a break. It's you putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
But for example, you started to work with Ty a little bit.
Yep.
And I know that helped you, one, because obviously Ty understands scale and everything else.
Yep.
But 2 things. One, how did you make that connection? And how do people go about trying to meet and work with someone? I mean, did you come up to him? Actually, I'll let you explain how you did that process.
So my story was when I was 17, he was primarily the person I was following to like learn how he was doing what he was doing. And I'd have a legal notepad laying on my parents' living room floor. And every day he'd do a live stream and he'd sell his accelerator at the end for a few grand. I could never afford it. Parents wouldn't help me with it. So I literally just took notes. I was like, I'm gonna learn this no matter what. And so that journey kind of started then. And then I started my agency. I was seeing some success with it. And at that time, he had his SMMA program. So it kind of fit perfectly. I was like, okay, I'm seeing success. I want to like tell him about it. So it was at his event in Santa Monica that I met him the first time, told him what I was doing. He put me on a social. And then I saw him again in LA for a different conference and, met him again, went up to him. And basically, after I had started my agency, I bought the SMMA program, just seeing like what information was in there. And I was like, well, there's like some Facebook ad stuff missing. I'd love if you were, if I can share any of my success, let me know. And the very next day, like right on the spot, he's like, okay, come over and teach tomorrow. And so, they vetted me and whatnot, made sure, I'm really
right. It's not like, hey, this is some guy who doesn't really know what he's doing coming out to teach Facebook ad. They do a little bit of research first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just to clarify for everybody.
No, they do their due diligence. So anyway, I go in there and then I'm at Ty's place teaching stuff, and the relationship's grown ever since. And
it was you offering to do something. It's the same thing. I mean, you and I both love Gary. It's the same thing he talks about all the time. If you want to help someone who's bigger than you, or you want to have a connection or create a relationship, offer to help them.
Yeah, no,
that's literally what you did. You offered to, hey, let me help you build out the SMM program.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Build out the Facebook ad side, and he was like, sure.
Yeah, no, because there wasn't that much content in there, and I get messages all the time saying, that those were some of the best lessons in the whole program. Because when I went there too, I wasn't like, oh well, I'm gonna only give a little bit so that I can have someone go buy my $9.97 program. Like I didn't.
You poured everything you had into it.
I like gave a ton away, and I was just like, that's where the long-term thing comes in. I'm not concerned. Like, there's nothing wrong with courses. There's an incredible opportunity. People are making a ton of money with them. But it's just like, I'm not playing to get to 1 million, 5 million, or 10 million. Like, and like even, Sam Ovens, he's at 30 million and absolutely crushing it. And he's got longer term plays. But like, what can get me to 100 or what can get me to 200 or 500? That's what I'm really concerned about and looking for. So I'm not so much consumed with protecting information, because it's like, I see what goes on to get to that level, and it's not my Facebook ad tactic, Looks like you disconnected there, Trent.
Okay, I'm back. There you go. I was hearing all of it, but can you hear me now? Hello? You have me, Nick? Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second. Get this right here. Hey, can you hear me? Nick? Hello? Check. Hey, can you hear me? Hello. Wow, I'm not sure what's going on here. Nick, are you there? All right. So we're going to try and get Nick back real quick and keep going here. I'm not sure what happened, so give me just a second. Let's see if we can get Nick back in here and keep going. Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. We're good. I'm not sure what happened, but we're up and running again.
All right, awesome.
Every once in a while, this Be Live gets a little glitchy, but still
Yeah.
the best one that I found.
No, yeah, definitely.
But I did hear everything you were saying.
Okay.
I heard the process. My video just disappeared.
Yeah.
So no, that is cool though. That you literally just said, "All right, I'm going to go all in," and you gave all of your, just like a lot of people talk about giving all of your best information away for free, and knowing that everything will come full circle.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like,
All right.
I've sold like a few programs, or I had a dude fly here across the country to come learn from me for a day. Like, there's little stuff, but that's just not my focus in the
Right.
business. I'm focused 100% on growing the agency.
Nice. Well, let me ask you this then. Speaking of growing the agency, all right,
Yep.
so you've done all this, you've grown, and now you're scaling the company. So what did you reach out to someone? Did they reach out to you? How did that process go about you kind of / exiting your agency or more merging with Margle?
Sure. So I started off as a consultant for them, and then they were seeing really good results. They basically launched a whole media buying department. So I trained, hired, vetted them, the whole bit from zero with no experience to, managing a ton of campaigns with really good results. Yeah. So I basically launched that whole wing as a consultant, and then they were like, well, we kind of want more of your time. And I'm like, well, as you know, I'm doing this over here. So, they're like, well, would you sell it?
How about we buy this over here?
Yeah, well, would you sell it? And I was like, well, initially I was very hesitant. I said no, because I knew I was going to win either way. But like, as I started spending more time here, got more comfortable, and then, it just made financial sense too. I was like, yeah, let's start working on it. So the deal took like 6 months to work out. But they approached me on that.
Now, let me ask you, man, what's the process like? I hate we use the term exiting, but you're not really exiting. You was more of a merger type thing.
Sure.
But was that difficult for you in the process of like rolling into a new company, bringing all the clients over, everything else?
Sure. So it was basically like I sold it, but the way, like, I'm a co-owner here. So, I have an equity position and whatnot. So it was like a buyout, but I also, some of that buyout was absorbed in equity,
Gotcha.
that I have a position and all that. So that's kind of how it worked. It can kind of get complicated if, people aren't familiar with the way acquisitions work. But anyway, like in terms of preparation for it, like knowing your numbers, having your accounting dialed in, like the things people typically don't think are important is really what looks good to investors. Cause I was working with their VC firm. So we're talking like guys who know valuation, no cash flow, like they know everything.
They want to see your traditional P&Ls. They want to see your traditional balance sheets, not just the home entrepreneur who runs a basic, like, okay, I know how much I have in the bank, I'm good.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. So that's a big difference, and they are smart and they know. So if you don't know, then it's easy to get taken advantage of, which luckily, I have mentors and resources, and obviously I've done my homework before that deal happened. So it ended very, very well, and I'm super happy. What else did you ask?
No, I was just saying, what was the how complicated was it? What was the difficulty in trying to bring all your existing clients over?
Oh yeah, I mean, really, if you have good relationships with them, really just making sure there's no hiccups in the transition, really making sure that, like, they have their hand held throughout the process, that they don't feel like they're being, left to rot or whatever.
Right.
There's still a focus, and that they're still important, because a lot of.
Now, how did you handle the time though? Because as you know, obviously you're taking a bigger role here now. And I want to come back to one thing on the scaling side in your own agency, because that kind of is the background of what I was going to ask here. But how do you handle the time? Had you already scaled away from as much of you specifically having client interaction, just because that way you can oversee?
Yeah.
Or did you have to do that on the merger?
Sure. So like I was kind of the person who, I was the point person, but I had resources doing the work.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a lot easier in that regard. But I still had personal ties to pretty much every client, because I wasn't doing, many millions in revenue. I was just, doing well.
So when you're coming over to Margle, then is that one of those things where it's like, all right, you're still getting phone calls from some different clients because you've got obviously personal relationships with them, but at some point you have to begin to not. That's the right word I'm looking for. You have to begin to pull that back and say, my time is X versus here's the people who are managing the ad accounts.
Oh yeah, totally. So I just started incorporating them on phone calls.
Fair enough.
So
and then they have less going on. They're easier to get access to, so it makes it easier for the customer anyway because they can get access to them. I mean,
they're amazing. Like they're amazing people and team members who actually like are really sharp. It's not like they would prefer. I think the mistake people make is your client prefers to talk to you because they feel like you are the only one that really knows what's happening. So if you make sure you hire the right talent that's sharp, they have no preference on who they talk to because they know everyone they talk to actually knows what they're talking about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think most people actually think of that because I know at times when I'm thinking of the process, I don't think of that either. It's, the client wants to talk to me or anyone else who's running an agency, but it's probably just if they're feeling that way, it's because they don't have full comfort level with the other people that they're talking with yet.
And also you're actually undermining the employee by taking those calls, because then whenever they talk to their account manager or who they're working with or who they should be working with, then they're like, oh, well, what you're saying is unimportant. I just want to talk to head honcho, i.e. the owner.
Good point.
So if you let them take that and, task them with that, then the client is used to that. And then you're just in the background if they need to check in once a month or once every couple months, but you're not undermining their experience and saying, well, what you're telling them isn't good enough. Like you got to invest in the people.
No, that's good. It really is. That's a very good point about empowering your employees.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So scaling at ads. Obviously, you guys are doing a ton of volume right now with ads.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some? I'm gonna just start really direct and practical here. What are some of the mistakes that people make dealing with like Facebook ads at a large scale?
Mm-hmm. It's almost the opposite of the ad. Like, I think a lot of people think Facebook ads will be the magic pill. And Ty always says this, you can't polish a turd. And the more ads I've ran, the more that is like in my brain, because you can run the best Facebook ads, have the best strategies, but if the website sucks, they don't know conversion rate optimization, they don't have follow-up in place, they don't have a good brand, they don't have social proof, no one's bought their product, site looks sketchy, pricing isn't right. There's so many other factors that go into actually making sales that it's like the ads might not be the problem. It's really the back end that's really screwed up. Now the ads have to be done correctly. There's plenty of mistakes within that, but look at the picture other than ads. Most people are teaching all like Facebook ads, but it's like, once again, I've seen great ads that should do well do absolutely horrible because the back end experience is crap. And now
so it kind of reminds me of what people say about individuals. They never say money doesn't make people bad. Money highlights what's wrong with someone, or money can highlight what's good about them. It sounds like what you're saying is a similar process of, look, when you add money to your ad campaign or to your sales lead gen campaign, whatever you want to call it, when you're adding revenue to that process, or not revenue, but ad spend to that process, then you're going to highlight all of the areas that have deficiencies.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming you guys just have internal checklists now. You make sure that all of these things are in order.
I mean, even in the sales process, right? Like, we're not going to take a client that doesn't have things figured out.
I was going to say, that was my next question. So if someone's, they may not be at the scale you guys are at, how do they deal with, if they're looking at a customer and they're like, hey, I need to bring on new customers, but how do I broach this with my customer or with my client saying, hey, look, your website or your landing pages, they're not going to work. Like, what's your recommendation to them to broach that? Should they do it themselves, contract it out, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to definitely if they're down to pay to get it fixed, then, do so, contract it out. If it's not your expertise, make sure you're vetting those people, build a quality team. But I mean, I'm very blunt in the sales process because I feel like in the beginning, it's not as easy to be blunt because you don't have as much experience and you need cash in the door. But once you don't, once you have experience and you're not hurting for cash in the door, you can basically like choose who you want. And that's the ideal spot that you want to be in, because
it gives you the flexibility to be like, unless you fix that, this won't work.
No, exactly. And I have no problem. Like in the beginning, I feel like I was more apt to say something, like I had a lot of confidence in something, mostly because I didn't have experience. So like, I was like, yeah, like I know my Facebook ads are going to work. Like this will be great. And then, but actually I didn't have the knowledge of all the back end stuff that could be broken. But yeah, now I'm just like, I don't really think it's a good fit, or I recommend doing this. And, you know, maybe we can talk later, but, yeah, I mean, the headaches you deal with are going to be so much bigger. Like, I know you want cash in at the beginning, and people are super excited to get that first client. I promise you, it is not worth it. And it's hard. And I know, because I heard this before too from other people when I was starting, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, but I need it. But I'm like, now that I'm actually in the position I'm in, I look back and I'm like, please don't.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know what you're saying, because it's the process of I just need money so that I can do this, or I just need money to do that. Whereas, you know, one of the things I've always said too is, especially because obviously back in 2008, I started as a web design SEO agency because that's what was needed and required at the time.
Yep.
And I remember back then it was like the worst clients to take are the ones you have to give discounts to.
Oh, yeah.
Because when a client negotiates, you know, I remember having this conversation early on in my agency. My wife and I were talking, and she's like, well, why don't you just take the discount? Money was a little tight. Why don't you just take the discount and do it? And I remember telling her, I said, listen, the client that you give the discount to generally ends up being the worst client.
Oh, horrible. Absolutely horrible. I would never do it, because they just like, they're also playing the short game. I don't like people who.
Well, I think that's the key. It's the mentality of the client.
The mentality.
They're not willing to invest in themselves for the long-term process. I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. You have to be willing to. Otherwise, maybe you're not ready for, you know, this kind of advertising, or like do it yourself or whatever. But
well, one more question here, and then I'll kind of let you talk a little bit what you guys going on before we let you go.
Sure.
So how would you recommend, whether it's early on or someone who is, you know, where you're at the chiropractor's trying to scale to bigger, how much vetting should they be doing? I know we've talked just now about this a little bit in their sales process, and how much digging do you do into their follow-up systems there? How much digging do you do into all of that when you're approaching someone to bring them on as a new client?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically interviewing them. Like, I'm looking to disqualify them at this point. Like, so
when did you reach that spot?
I'd probably say not until like 6 to 8 months ago, where I was really comfortable doing that. But
before that, were you digging still into all the other processes?
Oh yeah, I was still asking, but I wasn't being as critical and turning people away for it. I'd be like,
you were just wanting to know what you were dealing with going into it.
Sure, but now I have a reason to be like, no, I don't even want to touch it.
Gotcha.
You know, I don't want to touch it. So I'm asking, you know, what's your average cost to acquire a customer? What's your lifetime value of a customer? What's your average order value? What's your store conversion rate? How long have you been around? Do you have video testimonials? What does your Amazon look like in terms of reviews? If it's a physical product, you know, what case studies do you have? What video content do you have? Like, I'm digging into all that. How big is your list? How much are you emailing them? What do those emails look like? You know, do you have a bot? Like, I want to understand all the pieces so that I can actually put together a strategy that makes sense and determine if my strategy would even work.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate the time.
Really get in there.
So what you guys got going on at Margle? You know, if someone is interested in working with you guys, where should they be? I mean, obviously, I know there's not necessarily hard set numbers like we want this, this, and this, but you know, what kind of clients, or when should people be? Where should they be when they're looking at coming to somebody like you?
Yeah, basically, they know they have a good offer. They have proof of concept that the market tells them that this is a good offer. So,
meaning sales.
They have sales. You know, not interest or Facebook comments saying interested. You know, drop fire in the comments, and I'll send you my PDF.
Yeah, that doesn't quite count as sales. Yeah.
So, they have proof of concept. You have a budget to grow, and you're really you're not looking for someone to get you started. You're looking for a catalyst. Like, okay, I know I'm headed to A to B. Right now, it's on track to take me 2 years. I want to see if it can be done in 6 months.
So you guys are the gasoline on the fire.
Right. Because really what we do is we produce really effective daily video content for Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so we're growing the brands organically, the engagement, managing comments, all that stuff. And then you have the paid media distribution. So those pieces of content that we're taking, all those publisher pages like Tasty, little things like these massive pages with 30, 50 million followers that are like fan pages that distribute content. We have partnerships with all those pages. So we're taking a video we make, getting it out to millions and millions of people. Like our top performing video has like 180 million views.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So like when we're say viral, like we mean 100 million plus, right? So we're distributing content from there, taking that data and then using that on the paid media buying side to actually position those products in front of viewers and audiences like those viewers. So that's kind of the strategy. So one can exist without the other, but it all just depends on your goals, right?
I'm sorry, one quick note, a little nugget that I think you had there that a lot of people may not catch. You talked about, okay, when we say viral, we're talking 100 million, right?
Yep.
But I think one thing I want to point out, and you know this, and I cut this from what you were saying, is that viral is intentional, but not, you don't know which video or which content it's going to happen to.
Yeah, we have a spreadsheet.
It's a strategy to do it.
Yeah, we
just never know which one's going to hit.
Yeah, we have like 50 videos that are like above 100 million views, like in a document. Nice. And we analyze that and look for what things make things click. But honestly, you never know what that piece is going to be. But because we're putting out so much content, it's much easier to find outliers versus if we put out 3 pieces, none of them might be outliers, and then we're like, okay, so none of that worked. But really, it's the 5th one that hit or the 50th one that hit. So that's why
volume.
Yeah, that's why consistent content is hard to put out for most people because it's expensive, or you just don't know what to put out. Too. It's time consuming, but you do need it. And paid traffic is renting space on the internet. Like you have to pay every time you want an impression. Whereas
this goes back to the brand awareness that we were talking about that a lot of small businesses don't understand the value of.
Yeah. And like I always like to say, like we do purposeful brand awareness because we're obviously leveraging the paid side to take advantage of the organic side and retarget those people and get them to buy things. But you have to build brand. People don't do business with ads; they do business with brands and the people behind them and the products and services they provide and what causes they support. So make sure you're focusing on the organic side too. Don't underplay that. Most people are just concerned with the short game. It's like, can you flip my business in 3 months with Facebook ads? My answer is no.
Yeah.
My answer is no. I mean, I can definitely improve it, but it's not the magic pill. Stop playing small. Stop playing the short game.
Right. Play the long game, and that's where the most value is.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome, man. Where do people follow you on social media?
You can follow my Instagram at NM Kirchner. Those are my last name, so NM Kirchner. And then here on Facebook, Nicholas Kirchner. Those are pretty much the only ones I use. I do have a Snapchat, but I don't really check that much.
No TikTok yet? I'm kidding.
No.
Hey, I love watching them. That's good. That's good toilet time. Anyway.
No, totally.
But all right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Nicholas, thanks for the time, man. Always awesome to see what you're doing, man. I'm really happy for you. It's fun to watch. Obviously, I've known you for years, and it's awesome to see where you've come from and where you are now and to see what you're doing with Margle. It's awesome.
Change. Big change.
Huge changes, man. Huge changes. Guys, thanks for watching. I'm Trent. This is Nicholas. This is Trent Talks. Again, like you said, you can follow him at NM Kirchner on Instagram. Follow me at Real Trent Evans. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace. I really hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value in this video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below. I'm going to be answering all the comments myself. And also, come find me on your favorite social media platform and tell me what else I can help you with.